Thank you very much, Commissioner. I was indicating that I assumed the responsibility of the position of the national head of the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation on the 1st of June 2018. Before that, I was in the South African Police Service until I retired in 2016. And from there, I was also a member of the bar in Johannesburg before I returned to the current position. So in respect of the work of the Commission, I am the head of the investigation that have dealt with a portion of instigators in the matter. So that is an introduction, and then I will be able to take the questions and the directives from the evidence leader. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, General. Over to the evidence leaders. Thank you so much.
Good morning, General. Actually, good afternoon. I didn't realize the time.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
General, I am not the commissioner. I'm one of the evidence leader. It's Yanela Ntloko from the Johannesburg bar.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you so much. Before we even begin, I think my core counsel here agrees that we should thank you so much for availing yourself on short notices and always willing to accommodate the timing that we've had to schedule with you, and for that we thank you, and we do hope that it also translates to other departments and other heads of departments as well.
Thank you very much, Madam.
General, as you're aware, this is an investigation into the July unrest. But before we get into the questions in relation to the actual unrest and the involvement of your department, there are some preliminary questions that we would require you to just answer, and they're not for our edification, they're more for the record, and in fact for the public as well, to just understand where the Dpci falls in within the greater structures of government. So if you may then kindly help us with informing this commission, what does the Dpci do? So what is the role of the Dpci, and within which structures?
Thank you very much, Madam. The Dpci is a specialized investigative capacity that has been established in terms of the South African Police Service Amendment Act, as done in 2008, Act 57 of 2008, that amended the South African Police Service, established the Dpci. It was further amended in 2012 to make certain adjustments as directed by the Constitutional Court, as well as the areas that needed to be enhanced. I will not detail much in respect of those, but just to safely to say that the Dpci's work is to investigate national priority offenses. Among the national priority offenses, as directed by the law, is to look at those serious matters that are not handled by the greater service or other law enforcement entities. So we first choose some of these national priority offenses, and others may be handled by the South African Police Service. So it's a specialized investigation capacity that focuses mainly on serious organized crime, serious commercial crime, as well as serious corruption investigation. So those are the main focus on which we investigate. these matters of the unrest that shall have occurred in July this year, we look at the existence of possible serious organized crime, as well as those who might have been instigating others to commit serious organized crime. Some of these crimes are obviously included in the legislation, like the Riotous Assemblies Act, as well as possible common law crimes. But that is where the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation comes in. So we have decided to deal with those cases where people were instigating others to commit crimes that were involved during the July unrest activities.
Thank you for that. And just for clarification, so am I understanding that you're saying, in fact, that you do consider the July unrest, one, as priority crimes, and two, you have considered them as crimes of, well, serious organized crime as the DPCI?
We consider the activities that played role in the July unrest as national priority offenses. So each activity will obviously be dictated by the nature of the acts that were done. So that we consider as national priority offenses.
So in relation to these that you have now considered as well, firstly, priority crimes and national offenses, how far are your investigations, if you may share that, and what have you uncovered to date in relation to those investigations?
The investigation that the Dpci is seized with involve those that we consider to be instigators. As the Dpci, we have got 24 matters that have been registered. Of these 24 matters that have been registered, 12 of those are a criminal document, and the rest, which is 12, are inquiry. They are still at inquiry stage. With regard to the two that are forming part of the docket that I'm referring to, 7 of those are already at court. They have reached court stage, where 7 accused persons are appearing in court. Their matters have got several dates that are coming from now up until next year. 5 of these matters that form 12 of the dockets, those are still under investigation. We have not yet arrested anybody. A decision has not yet been made to prosecute. We are not only dealing with these matters in terms of the forum that I chair, dealing with the instigations. There are other matters that are handled by the detective and the forensic services of the greater SAPS, and those matters are in 8 dockets. And then those 8 dockets have got 11 accused persons. One of those shall have been withdrawn. The rest of the matters are on the court roll. Let me also add that while I have indicated that I have got 12 of the case dockets, of which 7 are already on the court roll. By yesterday, we arrested another suspect. So within 48 hours, the individual will also be charged, which means that the number will obviously come and change to 8. The rest of the matters that I'm talking about, which are 12, are at an inquiry stage, and then some of them are already in advanced stage. Some of them, there is still a lot of work that needed to be done. So that is, in short, the work that the Dpci is seized with.
No, thank you. And just to take you back a bit, because we're now dealing with what has happened after, can I then take you to the period during the unrest, which is the period of the 4th of July to, let's say, the 21st? Were any members from the Dpci, understanding that these members also are members of the South African Police Services, involved in the unrest? And if so, what was the nature of the involvement?
May I ask that you repeat the statement?
So what I need to know is, during the period of the unrest, so the period of July, were any members of the Dpci, so members of your directorate, involved in assisting in any manner or form in the unrest? And if so, what was the nature of the involvement, considering they are also members of the South African Police Services, just directorate?
The members of the Dpci, when they are provinces and at national level, they come together to deal with the challenge at hand at this stage, which is the unrest situation. The members of the Dpci will participate in those forums with a focus on what belongs in their mandate. Yes, they have been participating, looking at what are the possible cases that belong in the mandate of the Dpci. Is there anything that requires the Dpci to get involved in? So they were involved from the time that the activities were happening.
Just elaborate then the detail of their involvement. You say they assessed where they would be needed. So after these assessments of where they would be needed, what did they then follow up and do during the unrest? Were any of the members on the ground with the greater police? May you kindly just outline to us how that relationship worked?
The members of the Dpci will, when the discussion are taking place on a national level, be represented and listen to what type of challenges are happening. Is there anything that can require the Dpci to follow? And based on the information at hand, they will follow that. Be it something that is coming on the media or in the form of intelligence discussion in the meeting, they will follow on that one. In the provinces, they will also be having their provincial structures that look at the provincial challenge, and part of the participants in those meetings will be the Dpci. Of course, those members of the Dpci are based in those provinces, which means that where there is a need to be visiting a particular area, they will be doing that. And they will obviously be working on inquiries. That's why I say that some of the matters are still at inquiry stage. Even the case docket that we have shall have started as inquiries. So that is how they participate and interact with the rest of the members of the SAPS.
Okay, and just for having said that, can you then kindly just explain for us what are the specific crimes in their fullness, of course, that the DPCI is involved with?
Are you referring to only the unrest or all the crimes that the DPCI deal with?
And within the mandate of the DPCI?
Yeah, most of the crimes obviously will come to, we start with the instigation, incitement to commit crime. Those types of offenses that are coming in the Riotous Assemblies Act. So that becomes a starting point. And then if there is are the elements of intimidation, we also look at that. And then we also consider that there is the possibility that crime be unescalated, such as those that will come in the popular car, which at this stage we haven't seen any that can move to that stage. We look at a very variety of all of these types of crime. We consider as whether there is a lack of high treatment. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm saying that as a point of departure, we look at the crimes of incitement to commit a crime, and all of those crimes that are appearing in the Riotous Assemblies Act. If there are elements of intimidation that appear to be manifesting in the act, we also look at that. And then in doing this, we don't close our eyes to the possibility of the crimes reflected in the POC data. So we look at that. We ask questions as to whether there are possibilities that crimes such as high treason could have been committed. As we are not working alone, we are working with the National Prosecuting Authority that will analyze the elements that we have, and they will be giving guidance as to whether we have or have elements that suggest crimes. We also look at the incitement to commit crimes such as public violence. So that is in the main the nature of crimes that we were looking at.
And in these particular crimes that you've just discussed, we've heard a lot of discussion around insurrections. Has your department looked at this or started investigating anything in relation to this particular instance of insurrection or possibly treason?
As I indicate, I think insurrection may be a word that they are using in the direction of high treason. When we look at this, we look at the conduct, the acts that have been perpetrated by individual, whether in a group or as a stand-alone. What we do, we look at the conduct itself, and the elements will dictate as to whether it goes in the direction of high treason. We don't close our eyes, we look at the act as a whole. And in this regard, I have indicated that we are working with the National Prosecuting Authority. The National Prosecuting Authority, at the beginning, we had those that deals with crimes against the state. At some stage, we were working closely with the organized crime prosecutors from the NPA who, in case they need the assistance of those that deals with crimes against the state, they will be engaging. So for us as investigators, we look at all the conducts that individuals shall have committed during that time. And then the prosecutors will analyze as to whether the elements are sufficient to go to high treason. As I say, none of those investigations that we have done go to the elements of high treason.
And just a follow-up question on that then, with those particular investigations, have they now been closed or are they still ongoing to actually make that conclusion that there is no evidence of high treason?
The investigations are continuing. Those that have already been finalized will be ready for trial. But if we pick up some elements that we may not have picked up before a person plea, obviously the prosecutors will look at that. So as I indicated, the inquiries, the 12 inquiries, we are not sure as to what will come out of those investigations, as to whether the element of treason will come or not. We will be guided by the evidence that is being unearthed.
And during these investigations, this is a clarity question, of course, has there been any investigations that lead to members of the South African Police Services having broken the law in any manner or form? And if so, what has been done with those investigations?
The investigation that the Dpci is seized with, we haven't picked up a member of the South African Police Service as an accused person. With regard to the inquiries that are at hand, although I can't say who the suspects are, we do not have the members of the South African Police Service at this stage. Only upon conclusion of the investigation will it be established as to whether part of those who are the suspects are members of the South African Police Service or not. And if that becomes the case, it means that in addition to dealing with them criminally, management of the police will be advised to deal with them departmentally.
Asking the exact same question, but now replacing the South African Police Service members with South African National Defence Force members. Has there been any investigations in relation to their involvement? And if so, how does your department deal with those investigations should their members actually appear in these things?
We haven't picked up the involvement of the members of the South African National Defence Force. And if we pick up that they are involved, firstly, those who are involved in crime, we deal with them as the suspects. It doesn't matter the organization that they will be working for. We deal with them as suspects. And then in case that we pick up that they were involved in the commission of offenses, we will obviously report to the department, which I think that the department will have its own internal mechanism to deal with those that would have been involved in the commission of crime, which on the other side, they will be violating the departmental protocols.
General, I think for the record, can you kindly assist which department you're referring to that you would need to report the members of the SANDF to?
If the members of the South African National Defence Force are involved, what we will do is we shall report to the South African National Defence Force. They have got their Director General, who is the General. And while there is the Secretary of Defense, any of those that you report to, they will be able to deal with their members appropriately. But the members of the Defence Force, as a point of departure, we will report to the South African National Defence Force, their Director General, which is the General.
And in your general knowledge in relation to this particular aspect of the reporting structures of the members of the SANDF, so when they are deployed, because one of the witnesses had indicated that when they are deployed in support of the SAPS, then they fall within the SAPS. Is this your understanding as well?
I think that those will be the matters of command and control, which the greater service shall have given evidence to, and then they will obviously be working with uniform colleagues, because you are dealing with policing. The police will be taking charge. Those will be the support personnel that ensures the safety and the security of those who are doing policing. But the South African Police Service will obviously be in charge of the operations. But the greater SAPS will be in a better position to respond to your question.
Wouldn't be in a position to clarify if, yes, that's a command and control issue, but whether a disciplinary issue would also fall within the SAPS since they were on command and control, or would that fall within the purview of the SANDF?
No, the disciplinary matter will not come to the SAPS. Those members, even when they are working with the SAPS, they will not be bound by the South African Police Service discipline regulations. They will have their own regulations. So it means that their command structure will deal with disciplinary processes. So that will be my understanding. As far as I know, the South African Police Service discipline regulations, it deals with the members of the South African Police Service, not the members of the South African National Defence Force.
I think we do share the same understanding, but I needed to understand it from someone who is within the structures as well, considering that was evidence that was put to the Commission, but we just needed to understand it further. Then to return to our questions in relation to your office, we understand that...
May I just come in quickly before I forget? Yes, it did appear yesterday that the Commissioner of Police, the National Commissioner of Police, indicated that there might be what I understood to be a member of crime intelligence implicated. Are you aware of that as far as the South African Police Service is concerned in your investigations or not?
That has not yet been brought to our attention. In terms of the matters that are on the court roll, we don't have any. Maybe it is something that might still be coming. If it comes, we will attend to it.
Yes, obviously, we are not, and you're not only speaking about those on the court roll, but those that are indeed being investigated at present by your institution, the Hawks. So, and in terms of the SSA, any member of the SSA implicated in any one of your investigations that you are conducting?
Yeah, we haven't obviously come across a member of that particular entity that is under investigation. Of course, I wouldn't be saying that of all of the inquiries that we are currently handling, a name might not surface, but let me say that at this stage, no. As a general practice, we wouldn't be doing that, but to mention that there is any, I would have indicated if I knew of. At this stage, I'm not aware of a member of SSR that is involved in the investigation that we are conducting.
Thank you. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I think there were two statements that you made earlier in the question in relation to the commissioner. You had said there is a member, and then at the end you said you are not aware of a member from the SSA. Can you just kindly clarify whether or not, whether it's in the inquiries or within the dockets, if there is a member or members of the SSA, which is the security intelligence, have been implicated in any manner or form?
No, there is none.
Then just to now go back to where we were, understanding that the Dpci falls within the structures of the South African Police Services, can you kindly just take us through the reporting structures between the Dpci and the greater South African Police Services?
The Dpci has been established in terms of the South African Police Service Act.
You were breaking there a bit, if our network or your network, but we can see you, but you were just breaking for a bit.
Oh, sorry for that. I'm not sure if it might be your side. I'm saying that the Dpci has been established in terms of the South African Police Service Amendment Act. In 2008, when the law was first passed, the Dpci was reporting to the SAPS structure. So the one in charge of the Hawks, which is the Dpci, was also the Deputy National Commissioner, reporting to the National Commission. Those in the provinces, the provincial heads, were the Deputy Provincial Commissioners, reporting to the Provincial Commissioner. That was the beginning of how the was established. In 2012, the law was changed, and then the reporting arrangement also changed. The one in charge of the Dpci was no longer the head of the Dpci, but became the national head of the Dpci and no longer the Deputy National Commissioner, and is therefore reporting directly to the minister in the same way as the National Commissioner of the SAPS would do. And the provincial heads, who are no longer deputy provincial commissioners, report directly to the national head. So that is the current setting of the structure. So the reporting is directly to the minister. It may obviously, when it comes to administration and finances, be dealt by the accounting office, which is the National Commission. But the funds themselves are controlled by the national head. So that is the reporting arrangement within the South African Police Service.
Thank you. So now that you've clarified that, there was the unrest and you report directly to the minister. Was there any communication between your office and the minister's office during the time of the unrest?
Our communication with the minister will obviously to brief on the investigations that we are conducting. So that communication will be based on that. Some of the investigation that we were conducting.
Was there communication during the time of the unrest between you and the minister, between your office or your directorate and the minister, which you report directly to?
From the time that we started with the first inquiry.
May you then kindly just give us a timeline of when did you start with the first inquiry so that we are all within the same frame?
Yeah, I will not be able to give the date on which the first inquiry was registered, but the meeting that we were coordinating started on the 19th of July.
Okay, will you be able to, even though you don't have the exact dates, indicate whether the first inquiry was during the unrest or after the unrest? So the days leading, well, the days after the unrest.
The first inquiry would have been done during the days of the unrest.
Just ask if you may share that information once you've received it, and just do a brief timeline for us of when the different inquiries came in, and if possible, in that very timeline on how far each inquiry is. So I understand some things are still in inquiry stages, while others are now in court. If you could kindly just do a timeline for us, and you can submit that through written submissions.
I will do that.
Now, to move on to another portion of your evidence, you have now indicated that you have a working relationship with the NPA because you elaborated on that. Does your directorate have any working relationship with the SSA?
Generally, we do have a working relationship with the SSA. Firstly, our working relationship is directed by the Act, which prescribes that there shall be an operational committee consisting of certain departments. And part of those departments that work with us in the operational committee. Let me try again. I'm not sure what that could be.
It's resolved?
Yes. And then there is a working relationship with the SSR generally, and that is directed by the law that there shall be an operational committee consisting of certain entities. And among those entities is the SSR, in the same way as the South African Police Service, that must also be part of that operational committee. So generally, there is that particular forum where we all work closely, inclusive of NPA, other entities that I have not mentioned. So there is that working relationship. And when it comes to the matter of intelligence, generally we rely on crime intelligence because they have got all their structure, the NUCOP structures that most of the information that SSR will be having will be shared with crime intelligence. Crime intelligence will also share that information with us. So that's how the intelligence community will share day-to-day operation information with DPC.
I think your sound is breaking in between words or halfway through the word. So I'm not sure what the issue is. It almost seems as if when you turn a certain way, it starts breaking.
Okay, let me repeat. The working relationship between the DPCI and the State Security Agency is firstly governed by law. The South African Police Service Act, as amended, direct that there shall be an operational committee which consists of certain entities. And among those entities include the DPCI, the National Prosecuting Authority, and the SSR. So I just needed to show that there is that arrangement that where we work closely with the SSR, and that in most of the operational activities, the SSR and the crime intelligence also have to the setting of the NICOP, where they coordinate their intelligence work. And that information we normally get from intelligence. So the information that the SSR is having will mostly be with the crime intelligence. And that is where we most will be getting the information. But it's not that the SSR from directly giving information to us. So that is how we relate. Thank you.
The sound quality is really problematic. I don't know if our people can try from our side and if the general should not try and reconnect perhaps. Because, I mean, maybe General, would you kindly mind to maybe disconnect and reconnect that we can just see if we can improve it because it is highly problematic if we can not hear you clearly. And from our side, if someone can just check, please, in terms of our connectivity.
General, may you kindly also switch on your video and if you can test your sound.
Thank you, Madam.
I think that is much better.
Oh, thank you. It sounds much better. You want to continue?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. General, then if we may then continue, and hopefully the sound issues have been resolved permanently. You had just indicated that generally the way things, your relationship with the SSR, we'll use that abbreviation instead, is that they will provide in instances where there's a need to provide a report to crime intelligence. But at the end of your testimony just now, you indicated that there's nothing that bars them from actually giving you a report directly on any intelligence that they might have gathered. Now, the question that follows from that is, were you provided with any form of report during the unrest in relation to intelligence, both from the SSR and crime intelligence?
From the investigating point of view, we haven't received the intelligence before we task the intelligence community. So it is only during the meetings that I have indicated that we are having, that we have been given taskings, and then also some information would have come during those discussion meetings. So it was not a intelligence in writing that this is the information that you may pursue. So it was a reporting with the meeting. So some of the information that we have, they will obviously be exchanging at operational level with the investigators.
Were these meetings before the unrest, during the unrest, or after the unrest?
Because the meetings started, the meetings that I'm chairing started on the 19th, it means that those meetings started afterwards. Before these meetings that look specifically at the instigators started, it was those not joint meetings that are chaired by the greater service, where some of our members will be participating. So the instigators where we were doing the investigation only started on the 19th, which means that it shall have been after the riot.
And would you consider this to have been sufficient, considering, well, the unrest happened from the 4th, your first meeting is on the 19th, there were social media reports of all sorts of kinds of organized or planned organized crimes. Would this have then be sufficient that you were sitting on the 19th with no report, nothing you're being told about, notwithstanding the mandate of the Dpci?
The inquiries themselves that we were having would have been receiving attention. So from the social media, when we receive those, some of those are the ones that triggered the opening of inquiry. So when we get the information from media or wherever, we were not leaving it unattended. So I must say that we also patrol the media space, social platform and the like, not waiting for the intelligence community before we can act. So there were inquiries that we were having. So the first meeting on the 19th, the inquiries would have been there that we were working on.
Appreciating what you've just indicated, wouldn't it not have been ideal, considering your department does not have, or of course, correct me if your department has this particular skill of intelligence, but the question is, wouldn't it have been ideal as before the unrest or during the unrest for your department to be provided with intelligence in relation to what was happening both in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng from the departments that are actually sourced to undertake this type of work?
Yeah, the Dpci would have been happy to receive that intelligence that would have helped with the investigation. So the intelligence that directly referred to the questions that the DPCI is supposed to investigate would have been helpful. So that is the ideal situation.
I'm not sure if it's your left or my right. I have no idea because of the way we're both sitting. When you turn a certain way, your sound breaks. So it's basically my right that you turn to that the sound breaks, but I don't know how you see my placement at all. So it would be your left. When you turn that way,
Yeah,
this,
you are on my left.
okay, in that particular position, your sound is fine, but it's when you turn, it's quite difficult to place at this point. May you kindly then just, because you were breaking in the last portion where you were saying it would have been beneficial. Is that what you said? Beneficial to have those reports?
It would have been ideal. Indeed, it's still correct to say beneficial, but I use the word ideal situation.
And not having those reports, what shortcomings did it bring to your department, if any?
In the absence of those reports, it just means that we shall have to do a normal investigation and task intelligence community to assist in looking for specific information. So it comes in two ways. It's to get
You are breaking again. Your sound, at the very least. Your video is perfectly fine. I think it's a sound issue.
Yeah. So I'm not very much sure what could be the cause.
Fine now again. I think I'll let you at all points in time where it starts breaking. Then maybe you could just take a break and then start over.
Yeah. When we conduct our investigation, if we have received intelligence beforehand, it is helpful. But if we have not received intelligence and then we are conducting a particular investigation, we also task crime intelligence that this is what we are investigating. Can you go and establish this and that? So there is also a task from the investigator with intelligence. So when we are conducting the investigation and then there is no intelligence available, we still ask crime intelligence. We task them to go and establish certain things that we would like to establish. So that is tasking to crime intelligence, and they will do that and report back.
Thank you. Now, moving from the SSR, does your directorate have any, now we're moving to another state entity, working relationship with the SANDF And what is the nature of that relationship when they're internally deployed?
Usually the South African National Defence Force are not internally deployed to work with the Dpci. They will be working with the greater service. We haven't requested their assistance, but because we are part and parcel of the SAPS, it means that there will be those interactions, but it's limited. And that will be left at that level. Most of the time we'll deal with the uniformed police official, and the South African National Defence Force will be assisting the uniformed police official.
Thank you for that. And now, going back, of course, to the police, and I apologize for this, I realize I just missed a question. You'd indicated that you had some communication with the Minister of Police. Was there any communication between your office and the Office of the National Commissioner during the period of the unrest, whether it's the national commissioners or the provincial commissioners?
The communication between the Dpci and the National Commissioner's Office is through the existing structures. So this NAT joins also in the province, the Prov joins. That is the communication channel with the Office of the National Commissioner. It's not necessarily communicating with the National Commissioner. It may be on a case-by-case basis, but generally there are these structures that communication take the process through. So the National Commissioner may obviously assign somebody to chair these joint structures, and that communication is obviously communicating with the National Commissioner. That is how we interact.
We still need the answer to whether or not then within these various structures that you have elaborated on, was there any communication within these structures with the Greater SAPS and the Dpci National Commissioner or Provincial Commissioners during the unrest? So NATCOM or Provcom, as you elaborated, was there clear, direct communication during the unrest? And if so, what was the communication in relation to understanding the mandate of the Dpci to investigate serious crimes?
Yeah, in the national office, there would be an officer from the Dpci representing the Dpci. So when discussions are taking place, it is very clear they know what is that which needs to be handled by the Dpci, because that officer is sitting there with them. And then the same to the provinces, in that in the provincial sitting, an officer from the Dpci will be sitting there discussing with the management of the SAPS. So it's joint sitting. They sit there. They are not waiting outside to be briefed later. They sit there, and when questions are directed, they are there to respond. So it is all known as to what is that which the Dpci will be doing, what is that which the Dpci are doing. And when the Dpci conducts certain work, it obviously will involve the greater service.
Okay. Have you been briefed on these particular sittings during the unrest and the shape that they took?
I have not been briefed outside the meeting that I was sitting at. the meetings that we started on the 19th, which were sitting on a daily basis. So the briefings would have been coming from that session. Thereafter, it will be regularly telephone calls, communication with my members, those that are at national level, the brigadiers that I shall have assigned, as well as those at the provincial level that shall have been in charge of the Dpci investigation. So those are the normal and regular briefs that from time to time I will require to be briefed on. So I will be engaged at them.
You're breaking again.
They will be briefing me on the state of the investigation. There also seems to be an echo. I don't know if there might be gadgets that are closer to each other.
Unfortunately, I'm just connected to the mic. It might be the different mics if you are hearing an echo in that they are in the same room. And we apologize for that. But I do hope that the sound still transmits well to you.
Yeah, the sounds transmit very well to me.
For that. And then just as we draw closer to the end, we just wanted to now, well, there has been all sorts of allegations that have been made in relation to the organization of the July unrest, the racially motivated attacks that led to significant loss of lives. Now, there's multiple questions in this, but I'll just ask them in the broad sense and then you can give the answers there. Is the Dpci investigating the racial motivations in relation to these crimes that ended with people losing their lives and others, well, losing their limbs? And then equally, whether or not the Dpci has considered some of these crimes as international crimes, thinking of the Rome statutes and the likes, which continue to bind the Dpci as well, considering they are in South Africa, and whether you have looked at them, of course, on a broader scale as crimes that could be considered crimes against humanity, and how have you been then dealing with them? Are you dealing with them as normal crimes as you would normally day-to-day basis, or have you assigned a different manner in which you've investigated these particular ones?
As I've indicated, the Dpci was focusing on specific crimes, and the murders, which may also have been motivated by either racial or whatever, those were not handled by the Dpci. Is the greater service that is dealing with those matters. I think they are in a better position to also expand on those. When it comes to anything that appear to be an international crime, that we shall have, if there were the elements, picked it up, and that could have gone in the direction of Pogda Tara or the violation of whatever Rome Statute and whatever, that would have been our mandate. We will obviously look at it, but as I speak, we haven't picked up any of those type of crimes. We are aware that during the investigation, there has been one indication that part of the communication that we were looking at was not local. But we can't conclude, because that is the part of the investigations that are still taking place. Those take longer, which is why you still have got the inquiries. Those are matters that will not necessarily deal with an individual, maybe looking at possible groupings that more than one person was sharing with others. So in general, if there was any that deals with the international violation of international laws, we would have been looking at that. And if it comes to light, we will look at that. Thank you.
No, thank you. And just connected to that, have you been doing any investigations in relation to potentially violations of the Intelligence Services Act by members, of course, that are bound by that particular act? As you are doing inquiries, has this come up in any manner or form?
No, we haven't looked at the violation of the Intelligence Act. And I think that the Inspector General of Intelligence would have been properly mandated to deal with that one. So that has not come across. Obviously, if that was to come to our attention, we would have directed it to the correct forum.
Thank you. And I think then my last question, before I hand over, if you may give me a second, please. And then this is the last question from the legal team, is there's been a general trend with all the government departments about, well, scarcity of resources and challenges in relation to resources. Does your department have the same challenges? And if so, what are the challenges that are faced by the Dpci in executing their mandate?
The challenge that the Dpci has, which is what we have always raised and indicated, is the number of personnel that we are having. We have been indicating that as the Dpci, we have got more than 20,000 cases. And these cases are handled by less than 3,000 personnel, all included, the support and everybody. So if you look at that number and look at the number of accused persons that we have put in court, which is more than 13,000, you can see that the volume is high. And as a result, it means that some of the matters that could be finalized speedily are delaying. So that is the challenge that we have. And thankfully, we have received assistance from the government in terms of budget. Unfortunately, the COVID has also somehow interfered with the speed at which we could do our recruitment. We have been operating at a strength of 48%, and we would like to be growing so that we can capacitate the Dpci effectively so that it can be able to respond speedily. Otherwise, with regard to the knowledge, the skills, we still have those skills. It's just the workload that makes some of the things to delay. But if you look on a daily basis, the successes that we are depositing, they are massive. There is no day, literally no single day goes past without success being registered. So that is the commitment that you can see in the DPCI. So we are working on capacitating the areas that we have identified that are obviously a challenge to us as the DPCI. I think that that is the area that I can say is a challenge. So the challenge, I think that in some areas you have got the issue of resources, physical resources that we also need some of them. But as I've indicated, we are working on to close those gaps. Thank you.
Before I hand over to the commissioners, just a follow-up question on that. Did the July unrest affect the workings of the DPCI then with these limited resources that you've just indicated, or let me rephrase it. Did the July unrest affect the workings of the DPCI, firstly? And if it did, how? And within following up on that issue where you indicated that you have resources, but COVID affected the manner in which you could recruit, did the July unrest also affect your recruitment drive? And if so, in what manner?
The July unrest did not affect the recruitment. Where the July unrest have affected us is prioritization. Normally the matters that we deal with, we prioritize within these national priority offenses. You may find that we were still seized with prioritizing the COVID-19 corruption and other maladministration. That is where we were looking at closely when the July unrest came in, and which means that the July unrest also needed more priority because that was urgent, which means that I had to take personnel from other areas, even the provinces that are not affected, to go and assist in areas where we needed more resources. So that means you have to shift around to ensure that the instigators matters receive priority. I had to remove senior officer from another province, bring to head office to focus on these matters. And then I also had to shift some of the investigators to go and participate, as an example, in KwaZulu-Natal, which is where we needed more resources to deal with the matters that we were seized with. So that is how I can say it affected the workings. And I have also indicated that we had to have regular meetings every day. So after hours, we had to be meeting to ensure that we deal with these matters of instigators literally every day. And then when time goes on, we had to adjust. But that affect the workings that we had. And also part of our support officials who are working in the specialized investigation had to also prioritize these matters that we were seized with because they were a national priority. So that is how the workings of the DPCI were affected. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General. We'll now be handing over to the commissioners. That was the end of our questioning from the legal team. Thank you again, once again, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, General. So the members of the panel will also ask a few questions to clarify and so forth. First of all, would I be correct to say that South Africans are largely dependent on the DPCI to uncover through its investigations who the masterminds behind the July unrest were?
It is correct, Commissioner. We are what lead the investigation in trying to uncover who are the masterminds, and we do that in collaboration with the intelligence community. And we also appreciate the information that can come from the ordinary people who might shed light. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And I suppose you would make a distinction between, on the one hand, the instigators, and on the other hand, the masterminds, inter alia, because the masterminds may indeed be guilty of high treason, correct?
Yeah, so it may be defined or described in question that some instigators may be seen to be more influential, such that they are labeled as the masterminds, and some of the mastermind may not necessarily have been directly closer to those who are executing the directions that comes. But it is a matter of level. So these are both influencing others to commit crime. So the masterminds and the instigators are more or less in the same category. It might be a matter of how one distinguish that this one is more influential than the other. So that is my interpretation, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, General. The National Police Commissioner made mention of a so-called mastermind report that is being compiled. So would it then be correct to say that the input from the side of the DPCI would indicate what the content of that mastermind report would be?
Yeah, I take it that the DPCI will be approached to contribute in compiling what the National Commissioner may have been talking about. Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you have any indication to South Africans as to when you hope, I know you can't give a specific date, but to conclude the investigations that you are involved with as the DPCI? That is now the high priority crime, organized crime investigations.
We will obviously not be indicating the timelines that everything will be finalized, but it is a priority. And we emphasize it daily that this thing can't carry on. We need to finalize the matters. As you shall see, we have already finalized others. Others are ready for trial. Others, obviously, there is mutual legal assistance that we are working with other jurisdictions, because some of the platforms that the perpetrators were relying upon are not hosted in the country, which means that you also need mutual legal assistance. So it is not an easy one to say that by this time we shall have finalized everything, but all these matters that we have put under our investigation, we want to finalize them speedily. As I have indicated, by yesterday we arrested one suspect who will obviously be appearing within 48 hours. And that is another part of the investigation that have taken us a little longer because some of the instigators do not always made it clear as to who they are. We only have to uncover who they are. So, but the South African can rest assured that we have these matters on priority. We are sitting and evaluating them daily. And all the participants in the forum that we sit understand that these matters need to be finalized without delay. So that is what I can say, Commissioner, regarding our commitment and the timelines that appears to be difficult to cut off, but it is a priority. These matters are a priority for us.
Thank you. So the social media platforms you are referring to, which are those implicated in your, or not implicated, but involved as far as your investigations are concerned? Is it, one would expect it would be at least Twitter, Facebook, and WhatsApp. But are there others as well, or are those the ones?
Yeah, those two plus Facebook, we follow those three. Those are the main areas that we look at the social media.
Difficulty in getting the necessary information you need. Is it non-cooperation from those platforms based outside of South Africa, or do you have to get court orders? What is the problem there? Because I have mentioned to the National Police Commissioner yesterday that the Commission, the Human Rights Commission, has received the cooperation of Twitter to trace a specific comment made on Twitter, I think it was. So what is the difficulty there?
There is a cooperation that we are getting, but for the purpose of going to court, you need a mutual legal assistance, because some of the information that you may have may assist you in conducting the investigation. But for the purpose of placing evidence in court, you need the mutual legal assistance so that that matter can come through the admissible way. So that is what will obviously take a little bit of time. And also at the beginning, getting the correct information that you need also take time, as some of the individual will not necessarily use the information that helps to identify them. I will not detail much so that I do not make others wiser in this regard, Commissioner.
Thank you. So you indicated that you arrested another suspect yesterday, and I think you said that person will appear in court tomorrow. Is it possible for us for you to say in which court? As I mean, as we know the law, as soon as someone appears in court, that person's name may be published.
Commissioner, I say that it will appear within 48 hours, will probably be in Roodepoort in Gauteng province. That is the jurisdiction where the case is being registered. So it will be in Roodepoort, Gauteng, within 48 hours.
Very much general. So let me just go back to the numbers you mentioned. You indicated that there are 34 matters registered. What do you mean by matters? Is that organized crime, high priority crime matters that we're talking about, the 34?
If I can correct.
Or 24, I'm not dead sure.
24.
24. I see.
Yeah, this 24 matters, Commissioner, 12 of them are criminal dockets. You register a criminal docket when you are now satisfied that there are elements of crime that are reflected in the initial information that you had. That is when you register a criminal docket. 7 of these matters are already at court, which means that the cases are almost at the final stage, because at court is either for further investigation or for trial. 5 of these docket, Commissioner, are under investigation. Nobody has been secured in court, and these are matters that the investigators and the prosecutors will be discussing around them to see if all what is needed to make a decision is contained in the case docket. So that is the 12. The other 12 that we have, Commissioner, they are still on the stage of inquiry. So we have not yet registered a case docket, although we are getting statements and whatever evidence that we are getting, we place them in the inquiry docket. And once we are satisfied that all the elements are available in the inquiry docket, then we can transform that inquiry docket into a case docket. That is the docket that at the end of the day will go to court. So those are the matters that the Dpci is seized with.
Very much, I understand the breakdown of the 24 now better. So we have 12 criminal dockets. How many suspects are involved in these 12 dockets?
In the 7 that are already at court, we have got 7 accused persons. In respect of the 5 dockets that are still under investigation, the number of suspects has not yet been ascertained. I haven't checked on each as to whether it is one suspect in respect of each, or we have already found that there is more than one suspect in each. In any way, once the investigation is concluded, the team led by the National Prosecuting Authority will decide as to whether they are going to charge one person or more than one person. So the number of suspects in the 5, we can say that firstly there are 5, but it is possible that there may be 1 or 2 in one docket, which may necessitate that the number of accused persons when we go to court will be more than the number of case dockets, as it can also be observed in the matters that the detective service are dealing with. That is, they have got 8 dockets, but 11 accused persons, which means that in one docket there are 3 accused persons, whereas in the others is 1 accused per docket. So that is how I can explain this 12 case docket, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. You made it very well understandable. Understood. May I ask you, of these 7 accused, how are they split between KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng? This is now the court appearances.
Yeah, if I have to answer that one, I must go to my report to check how many are in Gauteng and how many are in KwaZulu-Natal and how many are in the Free State. We also have in the Free State. So that the categorization, the separation between the provinces, I will have to look at my figures, Commissioner, which may take me a minute to go to my report. I'm not sure if the Commission will be prepared to wait for me to get to the report.
Yeah, maybe it would be quite helpful if you could quickly go to your report, because it might also be helpful in terms of answering certain other questions, if it's not going to take too long. Otherwise, I mean, it could be provided to us later, but best would be if you can find it quickly.
In these 7 matters, I have got 1 in the Free State. I have got 3 in Gauteng. I have got 2 in KwaZulu-Natal. Let me correct the Free State. The Free State is also 2. 2 Free State, 3 Gauteng, 2 KwaZulu-Natal. Thanks, Commissioner.
Okay, that makes 8, and the NPA in KwaZulu-Natal tells us there are 3. So maybe some of these figures have changed a bit, but that's fine. So I'd just like to know then, have these people all that you've mentioned now, 2 in the Free State, 3 in Gauteng, 2 in KwaZulu-Natal, have they already appeared? Or what is the split there in terms of who still needs to appear, who have already appeared?
In these matters that I'm talking about, Commissioner, are all on the court roll. They have all already appeared, and 1 is still in custody. Bail has been opposed. The rest are out on bail. So that is the status of the matters.
So as far as these, the people involved here are concerned, obviously then their identity has become public by means of our, the working of our law, and we can also get an indication as to what the charges are in these instances by operation of our law. Can you make that available to us now, or maybe later, or however you want to do it? But I mean, it is after someone has appeared for public consumption.
Yeah, the names are available on the individuals. Indeed, they have already appeared. There is nothing wrong in revealing their identities. And then with regard to the charges, before they plea, it means that the prosecutors may amend the charge sheet, and then what we have taken note, the place where we started was the Riotous Assemblies Act, that incitement to commit crime. That is where we started. So the physical charge sheets themselves will be the province of the prosecutors, who may amend before pleadings. I have got the names of the accused person.
Reveal that.
In the Free State, the first one is Mr. Sidiga. And then the second one in the Free State is Mr. Letsualo. And then in Gauteng province, the first one is Mr. Skakani. The second one is Mr. Munisi. The third one is Madam Majusi. And then in KwaZulu-Natal, the first one is Mr. Kanyile. And the second one is Mr. Zuma. So those are the accused persons whose matters are handled by the Hawks.
Thank you very much. Can you perhaps, sorry to ask you that, but can you perhaps also provide us with the names and the surnames of the accused?
Thanks. Let me go back. The first one is Mr. Orifile Oratile Sidiga. The second one in the Free State is Mr. Motsamai Phineas Letsualo. And then the first one in Gauteng province is Mr. Sibongiseni Crispin Sikakani. And the second one is Mr. Temba Gundwani Emmanuel Munisi. And then the third one is Madam Zamaswazi Zinhle Majusi. In KwaZulu-Natal, the first one is Mr. Bonginkosi Kanyile. And the second one is Mr. Mdumiseni Zuma. So those are the names and the surnames, Commissioner.
Thank you. And maybe just, just to summarize, what it is alleged that, factually that they were involved with. I understand that the charges may, obviously be amended until they plea to that. But what is it alleged that they've actually done factually?
Yeah, Commissioner, I think with regard to the details of each is something that will not sit well elaborating, because that is what needs to be presented in court and be defended. I would respectively on this one say that they were alleged to have been involved in instigating others to commit a crime, including public violence and the destruction of property. The details of each, I would request that it be saved for court, so that I'm not the one who unpack the nitty-gritties of the allegations, but it is the instigation of others to commit crime, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. You also mentioned that the detective and forensic services, that they are dealing with an additional 8 dockets, 11 accused persons involved here. And 1 case withdrawn. What I'm interested in here first of all, is why are these also organized crime, high priority matters? Or are these matters of a different nature, because you say that the detective and forensic services of SAPS, the broader SAPS as you call it, are dealing with these? Or otherwise, in other words, why are these 8 dockets being dealt with by detective and forensic services and not by yourselves?
They are in the same category as the one that we are dealing with. In that the arrests were already effected by the detective and forensic services. We did not deem it necessary to take away the dockets, but we decided that we shall work closely with them. Some of them, there were also inquiry that were already being conducted by the Dpci, which we just incorporated into their investigation. But in terms of the law, it allows us that I may, even if it is a national priority offense, direct the provincial commissioner to continue with the investigation that they are conducting. That is why we monitor the progress, but we are not taking away the investigation. So this we are monitoring jointly with the rest of the instigators that are investigated by the Dpci. Thanks, Ed.
Thank. And they charged in broad terms with the same offences, instigating others to commit crime, including destruction of property.
They are charged with the same. Of course, the alternative counts and the like is something that the prosecutors may unpack, but generally is the same: instigators, incitement to commit crime, public violence, and the like.
So 11 accused, 1 withdrawal, that means 10 accused. So if you have the detail, and insofar as they have appeared in court already, can you give us their names, please? Provincial breakdown, if you have it available. Otherwise, you can maybe provide it to us in writing.
As I've indicated, 1 is withdrawn, and I will not mention the name of that one. The first one is in Mpumalanga enforcement. That is Mr. Maslango. I don't have the full name. I only have the initial, Maslango. And then the rest are in Gauteng province, which is Mr. Brian Nkunu, Mr. Bruce Nimerhout, Mr. Sibusiso Mavuso, Mr. Savelo Msomi, Mr. Ike Tamsanka Kumalo, and Solanis Laule, SD Mhlabo, DS Way, and SC Zondo. Those are all in Gauteng province.
Thank you very much. As far as your investigations that you are still busy with and haven't completed are concerned, Is anyone up to this point implicated in high treason as far as you are concerned or not? That is now so I mean, clearly according to you, it doesn't appear that any of these people, the 10 or the 7 + 1, 8, that none of them are going to be charged, most probably charged with high treason. So what I'm asking in terms of the other cases that you are looking into, those are 12 matters that are at inquiry state. Any people there which forms part of that investigation being implicated for high treason as far as you are concerned or not?
At this stage, we haven't picked up the element that these individuals under investigation have committed high treason. When the investigation is completed, we shall see if these elements arise.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I will leave it there for the moment. Commissioner Ntuli? Commissioner Massa?
Just one or two. Thank you, General. Just one or two. For clarity, there are currently 8 of the 24 that are in custody. Is that correct?
I think that those who are in custody, I'm not sure if the 24, maybe the commissioner might be referring to dockets and not the accused persons. The number has not yet reached 24. So all the arrests, if we combine them, it would only reach 19. So I think that the commissioner might be referring to 24 being the dockets and not necessarily the accused. I'm not sure if the commissioner would like to rephrase the question.
My understanding is, thanks, General, my understanding is that the 12 you've said that are registered, out of the other 12 you had 7 and 1 other person will be appearing in 48 hours. So my question is, if you look at those who are in court, 8, and the 5 others that are still being processed, but my question is, what about the other 24 dockets that are there? Have those people been arrested or are they still to appear?
Maybe let me put it in this way. The 8 that we have arrested, 7 have already appeared. The 8th one will appear within 24 hours. That will be 8. Then in 5 cases of this 12, which will mean now it will be of these 12, they are still under investigation. I think that we may now again be reducing the 5th one to be 4 that are under investigation because of the arrest that we have done. But all what I can say is that 8 have already appeared, 7 have already appeared. The 8th one will be appearing. So 8 dockets will now be placed at court. And then the 4 will still be under investigation. That is the case docket. I haven't included the inquiries. So in those that are still under investigations, no arrest has been effected on those. Commissioner?
No, I understand it, General. Then my last one, in 2020, there was a a famous person in this country that took the riot assembly on review, and certain parts of the Riotous Act were declared unconstitutional. And you are pretty certain and sure that when you use the Riotous Act, it will not be those clauses that were part of the unconstitutionality.
We are working and being guided by the prosecutors who are obviously going to be prosecuting on these matters. They are satisfied that the charges that they are putting forward have not been set aside or repealed through the decision by the high courts. So we are comfortable that the prosecutors have applied their minds on this ones, Commissioner.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Chairperson.
Maybe just the last one from our side, General. Just more in general terms, maybe for us to understand that especially these people who have already appeared, that is now the 8 plus 10, which is 18. You know, what are the associations generally that would be alleged? Association with criminal syndicates, association with political formations, association with what kind of institutions? General terms, not, you don't have to say this one with that and that one with that, whatever the case may be, but so you know, what are those associations?
Yeah, we of course have observed that some, two, we have observed that there are members of political organizations. One seems to be a little higher in hierarchy. The other, we are not sure of the level. The others, we haven't picked a political association, but they belong to other institutions, be it the legal fraternity or be it a business organization. So that is what we have been able to observe, but they are not being charged for belonging to those entities because of their right of freedom of association and the like. And then I may say that with regard to the link with others that we might also be investigating, it is not coming in the ones that we have charged, but maybe it might later in the investigation that we are doing. So that is what I can say, but as I've indicated, those are not, will not be appearing on the charge sheet, the organization and the like. Thanks.
Yes, no, quite understood. Yes, that would be all from my side. Anyone else? Thank you very much, General. We really appreciate your cooperation with the Commission. We might be at some later stage be in touch with you again because, as I say, your investigations are quite central to, you know, establish if this was indeed organized, as many allege, who played that particular role, and I think the nation wants to know that very critically, and they have the right to know that because it does appear that violations of the rights, including security of the person, etc., has taken place as a result of that, if it was indeed an organization that of the events that took place here. So it's from that perspective also why it is important for us to make sure that we are also happy that the matter is properly and expeditiously and efficiently investigated. But thank you very much so far. We really appreciate your cooperation and your appearance here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And your colleagues as well as the evidence leaders. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.